Hey, what is up guys, I'm KBHD here, and I was actually out of town for spring break during the Galaxy S4 announcement, but I watched the whole thing, so I've had many hours to ponder exactly what happened and why it happened. So this is the Galaxy S4's features explained. So if you watched the unusually corny live reveal of the device at a Radio City Music Hall, then you saw what happened, you saw what went down, but if you didn't, it'll be the first link below the like button on this video. Absolutely worth skipping through and checking out. It's one of the corniest but also funniest presentations of any device I've ever seen. Usually they are pretty corny, especially things like Asus, and the companies just have a hard time presenting their new products well, but this one is worth checking out, so go ahead and watch it. It's pretty hilarious. Now on paper, the Galaxy S4 is a small spec bump in terms of hardware from the Galaxy S3. It has a slightly larger 5-inch display versus the 4.8-inch. It has a 1080p resolution versus the 720p of the S3. It also has a 2600 mAh battery versus the 2100 previously. It's also slightly lighter at 130 grams versus the 133, and it's also slightly thinner at 7.9 millimeters thin, and it also has a 13 megapixel camera versus the 8. So all these are numbers, all these are things that are physical hardware differences between the S4 and the S3. So you can see where people are saying, oh, it's just a minor upgrade, a minor spec difference. And that's completely true. When you hold the S3 and the S4 next to each other, you can see the footage from the hands-on at the event. They look very, very similar, and you'll be able to tell that they are, well, basically parts of the same family. Now, the Galaxy S3, when it first came out, was known to be a powerhouse, pretty much the highest-end smartphone you could get when it first came out, and it's still pretty high-end. The Galaxy S4, being a spec bump from the S3, is also a very high-end phone. The thing is, normal customers and normal average people don't know that it's a high-end phone. The average person watching that presentation doesn't know that it's an octa-core processor overseas, an 8-core CPU. The average person doesn't know it has 2 gigabytes of RAM, and that's partially because Samsung never actually said that. They never even said that it ran Android during the presentation. They saved all that for the very end in a final slide after the final credits that gave the full specs of the device. So the fact that it's a high-end hardware device isn't really a big deal to Samsung. Why is that? That's because they're not selling hardware anymore. And it may sound weird to say that, but Samsung is actually now selling, or at least adding value to their devices via software, not hardware. They sold a lot of things based on software and features, not really based on, oh, this has an 8 megapixel camera, I want to buy that. No one is buying the S3 for that reason. People are buying the S3 because it has Samsung features, and Samsung said, well, I think we can expand on that with the Galaxy S4. So basically, Samsung has seen that adding value via software, not hardware, is doing really well at getting and attracting customers. Now, the average person may actually look at the processor and say, oh wow, that's an 8-core processor. That seems like it's a great idea. But for the most part, they don't flip out over those things. They don't flip out over the fact that it has 2 gigabytes of RAM or the fact that it has Android 4.2 versus 4.1. They look at the fact that you can turn the page without touching the screen, and they freak out over things like that. Software features that you can look at other phones and say, well, that phone can't do that. I want the one that you can do magic tricks with. That seems like a really cool phone to buy. I'll include a link in the description right below the like button that has basically Samsung's wrap-up or overview of all the new features that they've added. Now, you might have already seen the Galaxy S3 was very popular for things like, HDR mode in the camera and group share and certain things that are just named the way they should because that's the way Samsung decided to call them. It also has a couple of things in the S3 like S-Voice, which we didn't really like that much, but it was a unique Samsung feature. The Galaxy S4, and as you'll see by the video in the description, goes way further, and the presentation that revealed the Galaxy S4 spent way more time demoing these features in a corny way, but they demoed the features for hours rather than going over the specs, because that is what they're selling. So I'll just go over a few of these with you. There are a few things that Samsung is trying to sell us and that are just software-based, nothing hardware-based, only things Samsung is building into the software. The first of which is called Smart Pause, which will pause the video when you look away from the display and resume playing it when you look back. The next one's called Air View, which will actually let you control the device without actually touching it, which is supposed to be good for people who are, doing their nails or eating or something. You also have Samsung's Watch On, which uses the IR blaster in the Galaxy S4 to control a TV. There's an optical reader for scanning in business card info. There's Group Play, which allows you to play music together on multiple devices, or a game and play the same game on multiple devices. There are new camera filters that are similar to what you see on the Galaxy camera. There's also things like Sound and Shot, which will attach an MP3 file to a photo, or Cinema Photo, which will allow you to make a GIF of an image. You take a series of images and it makes a GIF for you. There's also Dual Shot, which will allow you to use the front-facing and back-facing camera at the same time. You have Chat On, which will allow you to do video chat using both cameras, or screen sharing using the chat service. There's also S-Translator, which does exactly what Google Translator does live, but it's just S-Translator now. You also have S-Voice, which we've seen already is the same thing as Google Now, minus the predictive search, but it's now Samsung-based. So you have the S theme going on here, and you also have S-Health, which is a monitor of your physical health goals. So if you look at all these things that Samsung is putting together, it's pretty obvious that there is a ton of S stuff and Samsung stuff, and they just name all of the things. They name everything they possibly can to give it a name that people will remember. It's a feature that they are trying to sell, not a hardware thing, but a software thing. And because it is software, pretty much all these things are also going to be available in an update of the Galaxy S3 and the Galaxy Note 2. Now, we tech people were, of course, rolling our eyes when Samsung spent half an hour showing how we could swipe from tab to tab in the web browser without touching the screen. But that wasn't for us. That wasn't for the couple 100,000 tech people watching. That was for the people, the average people, who actually have never seen that happen before on any device and think, wow, can the Sony Xperia Z do that? No. Can the Oppo Find 5 do that? No. Can the iPhone do that? No. So I think I want this one instead. Usually we don't really consider these features important, but then some of us tech people actually think, they actually ask the question, if I root this device and put CyanogenMod on it, am I going to lose that S Pen feature? Am I going to lose that AirView feature? So it's actually becoming more important to us. So the Samsung S features and S stuff is actually getting to us now, and it's becoming a thing that we associate with the Galaxy brand and the Galaxy hardware. Now, all the software-based enhancements and things like that on top of Android without ever mentioning Android naturally brings up the question, is Samsung moving away from Google? Are they moving away from Android altogether? Could they build their phone on a new operating system? And my answer to that would be no. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I think it could go the way of the Kindle Fire, where it is built on top of Android, technically, but you would never know unless they told you. And Samsung could probably pull something like that off because they can skin it so heavily and really make it such a Samsung experience, the way Amazon made the Kindle Fire such an Amazon experience, that you would never know it's running Android. That being said, their tagline for the Galaxy S4 is Life Companion, which is interesting by itself. I've never seen that as a tagline, but there you go. Life Companion has all these new features that are all software based, and Samsung is clearly making a move towards value added via software instead of value added via hardware. And that's the Galaxy S4's features explained. There you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely feel free to give it a thumbs up and share it around. Hopefully more people will be able to understand exactly what Samsung is going for here. And if you enjoyed, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button below. There are more on the way. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.